Infosys provides world-class online IT training, staffing, and software testing solutions to customers worldwide. H2K Infosys, how we are different from our competitors. 100% job-oriented training, hands-on project work, cloud test lab, resume preparation and review, mock interviews, robust syllabus, one-time fee and lifetime access to classes, access to recorded sessions of live classes. H2K Infosys has won the trust of thousands of students worldwide. For a free demo class, visit us at h2kinfosys.com.
Deployment or installation, and then user training and UAT. These are the most common phases that are followed in most of the SDLC projects, SDLC methods. Okay, so each and every phase will have, each and every model will have all these phases, but they might be using a different terminology or a different word. That's so. First thing, scope identification. We usually call it a requirement analysis or identifying the requirements in most of the models. So the main purpose of scope identification is to analyze the requirements and identify what is the scope of the application and what is the client's expectation. So this is done by BA or a project manager. BA is nothing but business analysts. Business analysts are people who has a good knowledge on the application or the scope of the application we wanted to develop, because these people directly interact with the client. There will be BAs in the client side as well as from the project team. Project team will be us who will be developing the project or testing the project. Okay, so the BAs talk to each other and try to understand the requirements and the scope and what is the client's expectation of the application. What is he expecting out of that application? What are the limitations of the application? Because we can't develop a complete software at a time, so it involves cost and timelines. So the client might be asking for a particular release with some features of the application, post which after that release they will elaborate or expand the application or add some features or enhance the features. So that is nothing but identifying the scope. All these things are done by a BA or a project manager. In case BAs are not available, project manager does this task. And all these scope identification, after the scope identification is done, it is documented as a scope document or a business requirement document. Okay, and then planning. Planning would be done by a project manager, where the actual planning of the project, which involves budget, scheduling, timelines, everything will be discussed in detail or planned in detail by a project manager in this phase, which is called planning. And the outcome of this planning stage would be a project plan document. Project plan document will have all the details of the project like budgeting, scheduling, everything. And next phase would be analysis. Analysis is actually analyzing the functional requirements of the application. Till now we have identified the scope, analyzed the scope, and we have planned for the budget and scheduling. But where in analysis we will actually discuss about what software to use, what are the functionality of the application, how are we going to achieve that, what technology are we using to achieve the functionality required. Okay, so all these things are analyzed in this analysis phase, which is again done by business analysts, and they are documented in a functional requirement document. And next thing is a design. Designing is actually designing the graphics of the application, which is done by architects or designers. So each and every element on the application should be designed by a designer, which involves designing the color, font, size, pixels, everything. So all these things, each and every element on a page or an application is designed by a designer, and the design specifications are documented as a part of design document. So when we are testing, if we are performing a UI testing, which is called user interface testing, we would take this design document as a reference, wherein we will check the user interface of the application to be matching with the requirements or specifications mentioned in the design document. So all the font, size, color, positioning, pixels, everything should be matching with the design document. And next is the development. Development is actually when the developers write a source code for the application. Till now we have analyzed or identified requirements and does planning, and development is the stage where the actual source code is written by the developers. The outcome of this development is nothing but a working prototype or an application or some kind of source code. Is everyone clear till now? Okay, and after developers develop the source code, the next phase would be testing or debugging, which is done by QA team. And the outcome of this testing phase would be a test plan or test artifacts or a application which has passed QA or tested perfectly without any defects. Okay, and then the deployment or installation, which is nothing but deploying the application at the client location. After we finish the testing and we give a sign off for the application, it will be deployed in the client location. It is done by the developer again, and after deployment or while deployment, the document which they will prepare is nothing but the installation manual, which will have information about how the application can be installed and what are the requirements for that application to be installed. For example, the system requirements like the space required, free space required, the RAM size, or the operating systems that would support. If it is a web application, what kind of browsers would it support? Okay, all this information would be documented in that installation manual. And after that, user training and user acceptance, which will be done by BAs again, and it will have a user manual as a document which will help in understanding the user each and every application or each and every module of the application. For example, you will see a help menu for each and every software you download and install, right? So it will have the detailed information about each and every tab in that application, each and every functionality in that application, and how to use it, how you can use that application, right? That is nothing but a user manual or a help menu. So all this is the document which is the outcome of this user training or user acceptance, which is usually done by the BA team. This is the overview of an SDLC. Okay, Praveen. Yeah, sorry, Surikant, tell me. Sorry, it is not a testing, but it is a phase where the application is given to a user and a user is trained to use that application. For example, we don't give the information about the software tested in the user manual. User manual is similar to the help. If you have downloaded any application, you will get a help menu, right, where you can see all the information about the application functionality. For example, what you will be able to do using the file menu, edit menu, what is the functionality of cut, copy, paste. So in that way, about the functionality of the application, user will be given a document which is nothing but a user manual about the usage of the application mainly. Yes, Praveen, tell me now. Praveen, can you tell me your question? I just unmuted you. Okay, now we are moving on to the SDLC models. There are several types of SDLC models, but we will discuss few of them today. The most traditional model is nothing but a waterfall model. So waterfall model follows a sequential design process. It means only after we finish with one phase we will be able to move on to the next phase. Waterfall model has these following phases. First is analysis, and then design, implementation, and then testing. So only after we finish analysis we can move to the design phase, and once we finish design we can move to the implementation. And after implementation only we will be able to move to the testing phase. So it is mandatory that we follow all these phases in a sequential order in a waterfall model. Okay. So in this kind of model, only after the software is developed completely and implemented, then testing is carried out. You can see the testing is made at the last stage. Testing comes at the last stage in this type of model. So after analysis they will design the application, and then they will implement is actually installing the application, and only after implementation they perform a testing. So there is no possibility of doing a testing at after analysis or design. Only after implementation we will be able to perform testing. There are few advantages when using this kind of model, as all phases are completed at one time, and it is suitable for good small projects. Okay, it is suitable for small projects, as it is very easy to use and each phase has a review process. It is suitable for small projects, not very big projects. And it also has few disadvantages, like future adjustments in the project is not possible. For example, if I want to do any changes when I am actually testing the application, I can't do in that stage. I again have to go back to analysis, design and implementation. And if while in implementation they find some defects and they want to change the application design, they have to again go through the analysis, design, implementation and testing. So this is the disadvantage we have in this kind of model. Changes or adjustments are not possible, and no prototypes are produced. Prototype is nothing but a working module of an application. For example, if I have taken a Yahoo Mail application, my client is asking me to develop an application with all the features of email, chat and login. So if I am using a waterfall model, I will perform analysis and I will design the application to include all the features which client has asked me, and then I will install it, and then testers can test it. So testers can test only when all the features that client have asked are developed and installed. We can't test independent modules. We can't test login before. Once the login is ready, usually we expect we can test the login, but we will not be able to perform testing as we are using a waterfall model. We will be able to test only after all the mail features, chat features, login features, everything are designed and integrated and then implemented. So prototype is small working functioning of the module or the application. For example, if the sign-in is created independently and given for testing, that is one prototype, which is a small part of the application which is working. So this is not suitable for long projects and for the projects which may undergo future changes. Usually projects which are very long or huge, they undergo a lot of changes in a real-time scenario because there might be complexities with the technology. Okay, so this kind of waterfall model is not suitable for long projects. It is suitable for short and small projects. And then spiral model. So this spiral model has 4 phases: planning, risk analysis, engineering and evaluation. The emphasis in this spiral model is more on risk analysis. In this model, project undergoes each phase repeatedly, called spirals, and that's the reason we have this name as spiral model. The planning phase is the base spiral and each subsequent spiral is built on the spiral model. So the base phase is the planning phase and each spiral is built on that planning phase. And as we discussed, this type of model is mostly used in risk analyzing projects, for example in aircrafts, where they have to first plan the application, perform risk analysis whether it is going to work or not. For example, if they wanted to design a spacecraft in a specific design, they should first check if it is feasible or not. Once they complete the planning, they perform risk analysis whether that kind of design is suitable for development or not. Analysis is usually done by BAs or project managers. Okay, and then after analysis they engineer it and then they can go for evaluation. For example, if they want to perform risk analysis repeatedly, they can perform that. If they want to engineer it, they can repeat the same phase. That is the advantage we have in this spiral model. Yeah, tell me. They can change the application, that is what we are discussing. So they can repeat the same stage anytime, because more importance is on risk analysis. They can repeat each and every stage any time. That is the advantage of the spiral model, because projects which are like spacecrafts or aerospace, they involve lot of risk and lot of cost, right? The chances of success are important rather than having an application which is ready early. So risk analysis is given more importance, and they have a chance of changing the design or enhancing the application at any stage. And one more advantage is software is produced in an early stage. Okay, and it also has few disadvantages, like it is not suitable for small projects, and it is very costly, and it needs more expertise. So when we are selecting this kind of model, we need more expertise, people who has more expertise on these kind of technologies, or this kind of spacecrafts or aerospace need to be available in this model. So here we could see two nodes, verification and validation, and each and every node in the verification has an associated testing phase. And in this type, each phase undergoes testing. Okay, just a moment. Okay, in this type, each phase undergoes testing. That is, for each and every phase, a test design or test artifacts are created and testing is carried. And then we move to the coding phase. Okay, it follows a model. It follows a design which looks similar to the V alphabet. So we call it as a V model. It doesn't follow a linear path like we do in the waterfall model. It bends after this coding phase. So we call it as a V model, as it is looking in that shape of V. And as we discussed in the SDLC, each and every phase is done by a specific set of people. For example, requirements are gathered by BA or project manager, and design is done by designers or architects, and then coding will be done by developers, and testing would be done by testers. These are the phases which we have discussed in the SDLC as well, but they are the same ones, but it depends on the model what they are going to perform in each and every phase. Okay, yeah, tell me. Okay, just a moment. Yeah, I'll tell you. Okay, so in this kind of model, we start with first requirement gathering. Okay, while the requirements are gathered, parallelly testers can write their test cases for acceptance testing, because the requirements are nothing but the client's scope. We discussed about scope identification, right, when we are discussing SDLC phases, where we will identify the scope, which is done by BAs and project managers. Requirements is similar to that scope identification. So once we have the scope understood, testers can parallelly work on this acceptance testing artifacts, which are nothing but writing test cases for acceptance testing. Yeah, tell me. Okay, let me answer that question. I'll answer your question. And before that, can I request everyone to go on mute? I will please type your questions in the chat window. I will take all the questions after completing this topic of V model. Let me finish all the topic of all the content I want to tell, and then I will take all your questions. Please type your questions in the chat window and please be on mute. I'm getting messages from other users that they are having some voice disturbances. Thank you. Okay, so whenever the requirements are ready, acceptance testing is where we check with the client whether they are accepting the software or not. When will they accept the software? They will accept the software only when whatever are the requirements they have given us to develop are met. Correct? If they want to have a feature like login where employees can log in and mark their attendance as logged in. So this is the requirement. And what kind of test cases are we going to write in the acceptance test is about this functionality. User should be able to log in and user should be able to mark his attendance. That is the requirement, and we will write test cases for that only. We are not going to write any test cases related to the application or the user interface. Okay, only if anything is specifically mentioned about user interface in the requirements, then only we will write a test case for that. Okay, and then a specification design. So the client has given us his requirement. Now how are we going to achieve that? What kind of software they want us to use for that? Okay, all these things are designed in the specification design, because the design should be in a way that we could implement that in the client location. And if the client is using some software, the module which we are designing should be able to work along with that existing software. Or if they have to completely eliminate the old software and use the new software which we developed, client should be ready to accept that, right? Because that involves lot of cost and effort to train the existing employees who are using the old software. They should get accustomed to the new software. So technology, design or architecture, everything we decide based on the client's affordability. Okay, so all the specification about which technology we are using and what kind of features they want to use or enhance in their current application, all these things are designed in the specification design. And once we have a specification design ready, we will know what kind of systems they are using. For example, if there is a software which is already there for them to calculate roster for all the employees, and now we are adding a module for logging in their attendance, marking their attendance. And if we are using any card swipe technology, for example, we are placing a software, whenever they are entering the office they should swipe their access cards, and depending on that attendance would be marked in the software. Correct? For that there is a hardware required. We should place a some hardware which will scan their access cards and mark their attendance, which will log the time they have entered the office, right? That person details along with the time they have entered office on that specific day. So that requires a specific set of hardware to be installed in the client location. So that's a different system. Our software which we are testing is a different one. Okay, these are different kind of systems. Similarly, there should be some database in the behind who will store all the employee details, right? Whenever someone tries to access their swipe their access card, the software should check in the database behind and allow the employee to go inside only if his details are found in the database. Correct? So database is again a different system. So all these are different systems. Only when all of them work integratedly together, fine, the complete software is working. Right? So all these systems we will get to know once the specification design is completed. And we can write system test cases, like whenever someone is trying to swipe their access card using that hardware, our application or our software should be able to check in the database, and if the employee is found to be a valid or a correct employee who is logging in, we should record his date and time to the corresponding employee details, and we should store that. Correct? We could write these test cases which are related to different systems interacting with each other. And then architecture design. How are we designing this architecture? Architecture is about how are these systems located, how are these systems placed, how are these systems integrating with each other. For example, we have a hardware and we have a software. How are we integrating them? We should have a server for which all this hardware is connected to, right? Whenever someone is swiping their access card, it should connect to a computer. That hardware should be connected to a computer where it has access to the database. That computer to which the hardware is connecting should be connected to a backend database server. Server is another computer. So, and this system should be connected to the database server again. And all these things, how are these connected? Nowadays people are not using servers. Small projects or small companies, they are using cloud technology, right? If all of you are aware of cloud is nothing but sharing of systems. We don't buy all the computers and keep it at our location, because mine might be a small company. I'm operating my company from a small room. I don't have a place to accommodate all the servers. I can't buy all the servers and accommodate in the location which I am running from. So I will buy or lease computers or servers, and I will connect to those servers from cloud. Servers will be in different location by a different vendor. I will pay to them and take them for rent. Okay, so in those cases, how will I be connecting to those servers? So all these things will be part of architecture design. And after architecture design is ready, we can write test cases for integration testing. Integration testing, we write test cases for how these systems are integrating with each other. Or for example, if there are different modules in the application like mail, chat and sign in, these are different modules in a small Yahoo application. In my architecture, I will design it in a way like sign in should go to database and validate the sign in credentials and enable him to log in, and then it should show all corresponding mails, and then it should show the chat window where user should be able to see all his friends added there. So if these are the modules, how are these modules integrating with each other? Okay, it depends on the project. If the project has a very big architecture, we will have a architecture design stage, and then if the project only has some modules, we will have a module design, and we will have integration test cases for both architecture design and also the module design. We should have test cases how these modules are integrating with each other, right? So for that we will have these integration test cases, and after module design we will actually perform the coding, where the source code would be developed by the designer. Okay, after the code is developed by the designer, developer performs the unit testing. Usually 98% of unit testing would be done by the developers, because unit testing is a white box testing where they have to test the code. Testers who are doing white box testing will be able to perform unit testing. Black box testing is only for functional testing, where we don't actually interact with the code and see the code. So white box testers or developers perform this unit testing, where they will go to each and every line of the code and check whether it is working as expected. Okay, and once unit testing is completed, all the testing would be carried out by the actual QA team or black box testers. Okay, here each and every phase has a good output, which is nothing but a clear requirements and a clear design at an early stage. So for example, if we have some complications in the architecture design, we will get to know in the architecture design phase only. Unless like in waterfall model, we will not be moving to a coding and then trying to understand if the architecture is working fine or not. So we will actually plan and design everything ahead before we start the coding, to ensure we don't have any issues while we are in the coding phase or testing phase. I'll take your questions after completing it. I'll just take 2 more minutes to complete this topic. Okay. The advantages of this kind of model are: it is simple and easy to use. It is simple and easy to use. It can be used for small projects. And it also has some disadvantages. Like in spiral model, we don't have any prototypes produced here. So only after the coding is completed, we will have a small working model of the application. And also adjustments or changes is not possible, because we are spending lot of time in performing this analysis and identifying the requirements. At a later stage, if we want to change or do any change in architecture or specifications, it would involve lot of cost and time. So adjustments are not possible in this kind of model. Okay, I'm done with my topic V model now. Let me check your questions. Yeah, tell me. Yeah, tell me. Sorry, can you repeat that? Mm-hmm. Correct. 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 Okay. Spiral model is primarily based on risk analysis, and testing is not given much importance. And the kind of projects which it is useful for also is a different one. It is mostly used for those projects which involve lot of risk analysis, like spacecrafts, whereas this V model is primarily for software applications which we develop. And at every phase, testing is given equal importance. Whenever requirements are gathered by BS or project managers, testing team also sits with them and try to understand the requirements. And testing is given importance at each and every phase, whereas in spiral model we don't actually see a separate testing done. It is done by engineers or architects. Okay, no problem. And I have few questions in the chat box. Let me answer them. No, unit testing is the only one which is done by the developers. All others would be done by testers. Can you please let me complete these questions which are already typed in the chat window? I'll again take your question after this. Okay, who writes the acceptance system and integration testing? So testers would write the test cases for this acceptance system and integration testing, and testers would be performing the testing for all these phases. Only unit testing would be carried out by developers or people who are white box testers. White box testing is where you actually open a source code and go to each and every line of the code which is written in a language called Java, C, anything, okay, any development language. You should go to each and every line of the source code and test it whether it is working fine or not. That is done in the white box. Whereas black box testing, you don't see the source code. You will be given an application to test, like Yahoo Mail. You will be given the application and you have to test the application. You are not bothered about what is written in the source code. You don't go to the source code and test anything or check the code. You only look at the application and try to use it, access it and test the application. That is black box testing. Did that answer your question then? Praveen, sorry. No, integration testing also would be done by testers. As I told you, it depends on the project. Integration testing, at times it involves integration of different systems like hardware and software, or sometimes it involves integration of modules in an application, for example mail or chat. So it depends on the application, but integration testing is also performed by testers. We do write test cases for integration testing, and we actually test the integration of all the modules or applications. Integration testing, Kiran, your question about integration testing, you're telling it might involve program files, right? So program files, in the sense, if it is actual code, obviously only unit testing and integration testing would be done by white box testers or developers. Or else, as I told, if it involves integrating two modules and it is a black box, obviously it will be done by a QA team who are black box testers. It depends on the application anytime. Diana, I just answered that. White box testing is where developers or white box testers test each and every line of the code, source code. For example, in a Java development environment, they write a code in Java, they write functions in Java or C. These are the development languages, so they write source code in those languages. And being testers, as a black box testers, we are not bothered about what is written in the code. We actually open the application Yahoo Mail and test it, but we don't go into the Yahoo Mail code or source code and actually check each and line of the Yahoo Mail source code, right? So people who does that are white box testers, and people who doesn't go to the source code and actually test the application directly without bothering about the code, source code, are black box testers. Did that answer your question? Yeah, tell me. Okay. White box testing is testing the source code of the application. For example, we are using Yahoo Mail daily, right? You don't see the code of the Yahoo Mail. You just try to log in and check your mails. And if you want to test it also, you do in that way only, right? But if I ask you to do a white box testing, what you should do is, you should go to the source code of that Yahoo Mail. If you try to right click on Yahoo Mail page which you are opening, if you can open it in the Firefox browser and try to right click on a page and try to view source code of that page, you will see lot of code. Let me share my desktop and show you the application. Agile model. Are you still seeing that box? On the image? Okay, fine. So if you all can see my image, this is the agile model. Oh, okay.
H2K Infosys provides world-class online IT training, staffing, and software testing solutions to customers worldwide. H2K Infosys, how we are different from our competitors. 100% job-oriented training, hands-on project work, cloud test lab, resume preparation and review, mock interviews, robust syllabus, one-time fee and lifetime access to classes, access to recorded sessions of live classes. H2K Infosys has won the trust of thousands of students worldwide. For a free demo class, visit us at h2kinfosys.com.